I don't believe in teaching the lessons of the past. I don't think teaching lessons of the past work very well. If they did, we wouldn't be in today's world. This play is about what's going to happen with people like us. And that's why they are dressed contemporary. That's why they're kind of easily getting into this play and not trying to portray children at first, and then they get into it.
Hello and welcome or welcome back. My name is Frida Weisel, and on this channel, I explore various topics related to Judaism, religiosity, New York City, and more. Today, for my long-form interview series, I'll be talking to the brilliant and renowned theater director, Igor Golyak. A few months back, I watched the play he directed titled Our Class. It's heartbreaking, gorgeous story of a class in Poland and the terrible story that unfolds with a war.
I regret to inform you that I must bid you farewell. Yes, I'm going to America to study.
We all have our destiny, our Bishet. If Abrams is to be in America...
And we lit the barn from all four sides.
That first scream I'll never forget.
This is my life.
We buried the Jews in the ground around the barn.
My family were burned alive in a barn by Poles. The people who killed my family, who took their lives, who took everything they possessed, now live in their houses. Can such monsters sleep peacefully in the beds of their victims? What do your priests have to say?
So I wanted to talk about it because I often think about what it takes to tell thought-provoking stories about our Jewishness, about our humanity, and this is a real example of that. So welcome, Igor, and thank you so much for agreeing to do this.
Of course, I'm very excited for this interview.
Okay, awesome. I've also been looking forward to it. So I want to start by, I do want to talk about your life story in a little bit, but I want to jump into the play itself, which left a very strong impression on me. And I'm hoping that you can describe it for the viewer. What happens in Our Class?
What happens in Our Class? Our Class is a play that tracks the story of 10 classmates starting in the 1920s, all the way through late 80s. And half of which are Christian, Polish Catholic, and half of them are Jewish. They live in a small town called Yerevan, and this is all based on a true story. So they play together, we see them play together, we see them study together, we see them fall in love, we see them play soccer, we see them, do things that regular second, third, fourth, fifth graders do. And then when the war comes in 1939, this place where they live, it gets turned over to the Soviets, and then the Germans come and take it over, and then the Soviets are back. So it's back and forth. And when the Germans come in 1939, what happens is that this small town, which consists of around 1,200 people, half of which are Jewish, and the other half Catholics. So one half of the town burns the other half of the town, which is the Catholics, Poles burn in a barn. The other half of the town, which is the Jews. There are some survivors that were able to hide. I don't remember exactly the number, up to maybe 5 to 10. And they actually came to see the show, or their disciples came to see the show, which was also weird in a separate conversation. But generally, the reason why this story broke out in the 90s was because there was a book written called Neighbors, which uncovered the story of how it was always perceived that the Germans and the Nazis burned down 1,200 people, 1,200 Jews in a barn. And with the latest research and documentation, it's been proven that it was the the neighbors that did it. And that's what's quite incredible and fascinating, and also speaks to the point that anti-Semitism is and hate is a light sleeper. It wakes up as soon as things change, go wrong, and it's a constant. I believe it's a constant in the European culture. It wasn't the Germans that did it. It's not the bad guys, the Germans. It's just Poles, and it seems like that's a revelation to a lot of people here in America that think that the German Nazis are the ones that are the bad people that we kind of despise, but it's regular people just like us, and that's what the story is about. It's about regular people just like us that burn their neighbors.
I think a part of what makes them regular people is they're 10 individuals, right? Half of them are Jewish, right? Am I right about that? And
Correct,
half of them are not. And of the 5 classmates, we see 5 very distinct characters. They're not like all horrible villains who are happy to throw their Jewish neighbors in a barn. Can you speak to your impression of that and how the actors present these diversities of, I don't know, you call it evil is a light sleeper. What's really sleeping here, and how does it wake up in different people?
Well, the perception of Jews throughout time is the light sleeper. The anti-Semitism and the hate towards Jews is a light sleeper, and sometimes it goes away or seems like it's not there. But then when difficult events happen, it comes out. Same as here in the United States after the October events in Israel, the rise of anti-Semitism, the rise of hate. And in terms of regular people, that was the point. I tried to create people that we can relate to, that these are not evil people. These are people that believe in some of the same things that we believe in, and the goodness. They were all doing it because they thought that that's the right thing to do. And how easy it is for us to know what's right and wrong and be completely wrong about it.
Yeah.
In general, about humanity, we think we know, and today we all know what is right and what is wrong, especially here in America. It's very black and white. It's this is the good guy, this is the bad guy. But with time, things settle into places, and I think one of the points of this play is to question yourselves and not be as sure what is black and what is white, what is good and what is bad, and question ourselves and try to relate and find empathy.
But not all of the non-Jewish students were equally participating, right? Some of them helped hide the Jews, right?
Yeah. It's such a people's story. Yeah, one of the characters, her name is Zoha. In real, this is based on a real person, that she later came to the United States and ultimately lived the rest of her life here. She saved up to 9 people. In the play, she saves one person because she's in love with him, but actually that seems like it is true. One of the people that she saves is somebody that is a Jewish boy that she's in love with. But at the same time, when Dora asks, like, how do you make that moral decision? When Dora asks, which is one of the people, one of the classmates that does get burnt in a barn with her young child, when she asks, "Can you take my child?" she says no, right? And I'm not judging. I'm just saying that in her thinking, what is she gonna do? She has a husband. What is she gonna do with the child? How is she gonna? She can't hide them. She hid those other people I think in a barn as well. She hid them, and they, she was feeding them all 4 years. and cleaning up after them. And it's huge. It's a lot of work, but she could not take a child. And how do you, so you can't judge. And she was in love with this Jewish boy, Jewish man. I'm not saying somebody is good or somebody is bad. I'm just saying that how we function as humans is sometimes an enigma.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear that. I mean, I think for me, the face of evil, what comes through as evil is often so much more benign, you know? Like people get carried away socially. They think something is right, but also they see other people do it and therefore they go along with it. There's one character also who is clearly ambivalent and goes along with it. You know, the big one who plays, the guy who plays, Vladik.
And he actually saves, and it's an absolutely true story. You can actually find a video of this couple online, if you can imagine it, you know, and he saves Rahelka because he's in love with her. He does burn the other people. He does participate, but he asks his friends that he wants to keep Rahelka.
You know, it sounds like such a dark, dark story, but the way the play is executed is with a lot of visual metaphor. For instance, the scene of this very gorgeous, vulnerable young woman with her baby being burnt in the barn is executed with balloons as a metaphor. The balloons are being dropped onto the stage and there's smoke, I believe, and the balloons sort of are cut off of their weights. And that is kind of the metaphor. With time, we see all the balloons go up and then we understand that everyone in the barn has perished. But it is done in a way that makes it possible to digest. That was my feeling, because it is really hard to watch such things. I'm wondering what you're thinking when you look at such a dark story. How do we tell it? What goes into the process of translating it to an audience so that we can take it in?
You know, we are not, most of us are not masochists. So we don't want to experience something that is awful. But awful things do happen. But just like in life, you know, awful things happen, and we sometimes laugh about it, and we sometimes joke about it to lighten it up, but we find a way to live through it. We find a way to move on, to survive, to you know, and a lot of times the saddest events are told as almost jokes, almost because we don't want to be vulnerable. And I think there's real humanity and truth to that. And that's why when I was translating, as you said, I love that phrase, translating to the stage, all of them want to be happy. All of these kids, all of these people, characters, they want to be happy. And they try to be happy as much as they can. And that's why there's so much humor in it. And that's why, you know, how do you express death on stage? I mean, if in the olden days, during Shakespeare, for example, a person could say, "Now I'm dying," and everyone believes that they're dying. Now we have changed people's perception, the way that we perceive a person on stage. We understand that there's a convention to it, that when Hamlet is not Hamlet. Hamlet is just an actor portraying Hamlet. So we have to do something with that distance. We have to do something to make the audience believe in the story. And the question is, how do we do it in a way that that still gets to the soul, but in a way that's believable, so that she's not, you know, pretending that she's being burnt on stage. That would be awful. Nobody wants to see that. But the idea of her dying, to make it emotional, impactful, and maybe even more so than the reality. And I think that's the advantage of theater, that sometimes these allegories or metaphors can create something that is more impactful than if you were to see it in reality.
Yeah.
And that was my goal.
Yeah. Because, you know, when we experience things in reality that are traumatic, obviously we respond with a trauma response that shuts off our ability to maybe think about it. And when we have enough distance that we have our coping skills like humor or some kind of creative distance, it allows us to look at things that we wouldn't in other circumstances be able to. What made you decide to tackle a play on anti-Semitism, the Holocaust? I know that you started to work on this well before October 7. Where were you coming from?
First of all, I read this play, and I have been wanting to do it for 5, 6 years, 7 years. And then the producer approached me with this specific play. So I was very, very interested in general. And, you know, a lot of our work is kind of intuitive. You intuitively kind of search what is something that can that could be a real dialogue with the audience about today. And you know, after the siege in Texas, in the synagogue there, and just in general the rise of anti-Semitism, I thought that this was and plus it's a new way of looking at things. This is, I guess, really important, is that it's not. And I find this very a lot of times in America. It's not about the evil people, the even Nazis that do horrible things, because we're all used to that. And once we're used to that, we compartmentalize. And okay, this is bad people. They do bad things. Okay, great. But this play talks about these events in a very different way. That these people are just like us.
Yeah.
And that's why it's important. And you know, the first rehearsal, the first kind of reading of this play, one of the things I remember, I said that it just came to mind that what I want to do, why I want to do this play is because it's not about teaching the lessons of the past. I don't believe in teaching the lessons of the past. I don't think teaching lessons of the past work very well. If they did, we wouldn't be in today's world. But this play is about what's going to happen with people like us. And that's why they are dressed contemporary. That's why they're kind of easily getting into this play and not trying to portray children at first. And when they get into it, it's something about, and this is what I said, this is before October. It's something, it's going to happen. And there's not even a question that it's going to happen, because the way that the culture is continuing to develop and the history of anti-Semitism in the world, it hasn't gone anywhere. It's just more asleep or less asleep. But it's something that as soon as difficult events happen, this will come out. It's not, for me, it's not even a question. And having 2 children, Jacob and Esther, this is a question that I'm asking for myself. How do they live in this world, and how do I live in this world, and how do we continue to coexist?
I think it's essentially about the banality of evil, where we like to think that evil is very black and white, and in reality, it is so much more complicated. And I think normal people have propensities to be so scarily terrible, and would not, they think they're the good guys. It's a very, very scary and hard to articulate. It's very hard to communicate this. Actually, do you feel like, maybe do you have any stories of experiences you've had as a result of staging this play that you felt like you made someone think, or you, in some ways, you could see a dialogue or a question that wasn't there before?
I usually have, I don't have a lot of, we did have some talks with the audience, but during the talkbacks, they don't really share people doing talkbacks don't really share what exactly they're feeling. A lot of times they're trying to ask a good question, which is a different objective.
You don't have a
what
comment section in your play where everyone says their opinions, which is how it is when you do videos.
Yeah. That's true. There's something to that, actually. Sometimes we do have this book that people write. I think we should have it. I didn't do it on this production, but a book that people write in their comments. But you've seen the play. I mean, for me, what's telling is that people after the play don't want to leave. A lot of times they just sit in their seats and they want to be silent. They want to think. And the ending is kind of light. It actually, it's hopeful, and there's lightness to it, and there's humor in it. But when people don't want to rush to get to their parking spot or get to the train, to me, that's kind of a vote, because the staff at BAM, rightfully so, is trying to clear and we've had problems with it because they're trying to clear the house. Yeah, because they want to go home. I mean, their job is done. They want to go home. They didn't experience this play. They were backstage, right? Yeah. And they want to go home. And so they have to keep asking audience members to leave. And then when the audience members finally leave, they stand outside. And some people smoke, some people don't, and they just stand around. Some people start talking, some people don't. But there is a sense that, like, there is a sense, and this is very subjective, but there's a sense that something happened. And I don't know where it lands. I know it hit some nerve because of the body language and because of the fact that people stay after the show. And it's like something happened in there, in the house, in the theater, in the space, that people want to look back on. It's not just a story of some people that lived 50, 70 years ago, but it's something that touched them. And I guess that's the vote that I look for.
Yeah. Can you talk about your own identity as a Jewish person, your own background as a Jewish person?
Sure. I have no idea what that means. So
where you come from, I know a little bit about your...
Yeah. So I'm originally from Ukraine. My family's from Ukraine. Grandfather, grandmother lived in the shtetl before the World War II. And then grandmother was evacuated. Grandfather and all of her family was killed in the World War II in Babi Yar in Kiev. And grandfather served in the army, in the Soviet army. He survived the war, and then I heard a lot of war stories as I was growing up. I was close with my grandfather, and he would tell me about his ship that he served on, his battleship, and that's how I would fall asleep. So that's all I knew about where I come from, where I come from, and who I am. Is the identity of a war hero passed on, I guess. And then when I was 7, I remember my father in Kiev. My father was shaving in the bathroom, and I was in the hallway. So he looked out and said, "By the way, you're Jewish," and continued to shave. First of all, I didn't know what that means because just literally, I just didn't know the word.
Wow.
Because it wasn't something that is talked about or was talked about in the Soviet Union to protect. And
wow.
So I was like, where am I Jewish? Like, I don't know. I have no idea. So I'm still trying to figure out where I'm Jewish.
Why did he tell you? What compelled him to tell you on the spot like that?
Maybe he thought of something, but it was completely random. And it's so interesting that that's how humans are, and that's how life is. It just, and sometimes, and a lot of times we think that we know the answer to why certain things happen because, I don't know, there is in childhood there was a problem, and that's why this person became a sociopath, and sometimes has nothing to do with anything. And I think she probably was thinking about something and wanted to tell me for a while, and maybe kept forgetting. And so, I remember. By the way, you said,
Did you then like go and what happened next? I'm like curious. What happens when you find out you're Jewish when you don't even know what Judaism is?
I don't think I've brought it up again. I don't think I brought it up again because it was just such a kind of a hush thing. I don't know. Maybe it was in the air. I don't know why. Or maybe I was dumb. Or maybe I liked soccer more because I used to play soccer a lot. But I remember this moment, and it's very vivid in my mind. So it stuck with me, but I never pursued it. And the time that when we were immigrating from the Soviet Union, it was right at the fall of the Soviet Union in '89. When we were in Italy, we had to go through like Vienna and then Italy and then come here. And there was like a Jewish school that was formed by the immigrants that lived together and to teach us about Jewish culture and traditions. I remember doing that. That was about, we lived there for 6-7 months. So that was 3-4 months of that. Not too long, but a little bit. And then when I came to the US, I went to the synagogue because, okay, now that we're Jewish and we're free to be Jewish, our whole family got dressed and went to the synagogue. And it was completely foreign. Who are these people? What is this? What language is this? And so we kind of, were in a corner. And then we left. During my professional life and with the horrible events that have been happening, with those events, I realize more and more how Jewish I am.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a certain danger.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear that. We come from very different paths, but I also feel like witnessing the conflict in the world, witnessing anti-Semitism in the world creates a distinct knowledge of your Jewishness. For me, that's been the experience anyway.
Absolutely.
Do you go to the synagogue? Can I ask? Do you like...
Sometimes, yeah. I go on high holidays.
Got it. Cool. You're a high holiday Jew like a lot of us.
Yeah. With just as a continuation to this conversation, there was an interview that I did, a conversation, and one of the things I said, and I keep going back to it, and that kind of became the headline of the article, is I never thought I would be a Jewish director. Because when I don't perceive myself as a Jewish director until now. Because I'm Jewish and I'm the director. Those are two separate things. I'm supposed to talk about the pain points of the world and of people and connecting people, empathizing, blah, blah, and all of that. And it's kind of like too small to be, specializing in, plus in terms of like art, you're limiting yourself, and it's, and there's also this sense of, especially in the European Jews, there's the high art and then there's the ethnic art. So there's the high art, there's Mozart, there's, I don't know, And so anyway, this is just something that I remembered. And for now, I think I am a Jewish director for this time period, and I'm okay with it. And I that's what I want to do. That's what I want to be for now.
Yeah, I understand that. I think first of all, there is a concern of being pigeonholed. Now you're the Jewish. I mean, major famous writers like Philip Roth dealt with the same problem of being pigeonholed as the Jewish writer. The Jewish, you're very good, but you're in that category.
Yeah.
And I get the idea about wanting to not be identified in that way. By the way, how come you went to Russia to study?
So I came to the U.S. from Ukraine, and then I guess so the formal reason is I really like Russian theater, and I really like the approach of European Russian theater. Well, European theater that really formed in Russia with Stanislavski and Chekhov and so forth. So that was the formal reason. The informal reason, I think that I kind of never found a place for myself here. I never kind of fit in with the synagogue, the school. I don't know. I was the weird kid, and it was quite difficult to go to Russia because we immigrated from the Soviet Union, which included both Russia and Ukraine. And for my parents, it was difficult because it was like, okay, we did all of this work, all of this suffering to come to this new country, and now he's going back. So there were people like pointing fingers at me. That's the guy that decided to go back. Like in the Russian community, in the Russian Jewish community, that's the guy.
Really? You're like a traitor.
Like a traitor, but also like a wow factor. So I think I like the wow factor. Plus, I do like the Russian theater approach, which right now that's a completely different subject. Is because I come from Ukraine. Everything Russia for me is something that is a very difficult relationship because of the war in Ukraine. So now we follow two wars. Anyway. So I went to Russia I guess for those reasons. I can't tell you exactly, but like if it was a formal interview, I would say yes, the Russian theater is the greatest.
I see. Okay, we got the full answer. We appreciate that it's not a formal interview. You can give us the full rounded answer. Do you feel like an immigrant is a main identity for you and a source of maybe your creativity?
There's definitely some immigrant qualities, like qualities of survival. The company and my career really lifted during an emergency, during the pandemic. And I think that's very much an immigrant trait. It's, okay, things are hard. What do we do to figure it out? Let's not complain and be in the depression and justify where we are. And so I created a couple of pieces that went viral and were online, and New York Times came to see it and gave me one critic's pick, then second critic's pick, then Baryshnikov came to see it. And it was all created because there was a shortage of something. And I think that's a very immigrant quality, I would say. In terms of what do I feel like? I feel like, the first title of the book is Between Two Worlds. And that's how I feel, I think, is that I'm somewhere in between. And I found and that's kind of my home now. My home, my physical home is Boston, definitely. It's not Russia. It's not Ukraine. It's Boston. And that's where my parents are. Do I feel like I'm a Bostonian? No. Do I feel I'm a New Yorker? No. I am between a bunch of worlds, and I feel really comfortable there now.
Yeah. I relate to that a lot. I come from a very different place, but I relate to that a lot.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about actually staging the Dybbuk in a shul. What was it like? So you recently staged Dybbuk in the Vilna Shul in Boston, right? So what was that like? And my second question was there something specific that was Igor about the presentation?
Oh, everything is Igor. There's a friend, my friend's, one of my best friend's son, who is in college now, and he's been following what I do, and I'm very proud that he comes to my shows because he's young and he brings his friends, and he calls them Igorisms. So there is a bunch. There's always a lot of Igorisms, but the idea of Vilna Shul, which is one of the oldest immigrant synagogues in the States, it's so beautiful and so layered. They were trying to remodel, and there were layers of things that they've uncovered. And uncovering the layers of our history was kind of the theme of the play. It's uncovering the layers of where we come from and who we are from this shtetl. And just like uncovering the walls when they were trying to remodel and they didn't finish, it's like these characters live in these walls that are being uncovered with layers. And so it fit, the idea of the play fit very much the space. And so we put a bunch of scaffolding throughout the whole thing, and they have beautiful skylights, and the scaffolding went up all the way into the skylight. And it was like almost like a uncovering of a conversation with God, with scaffolding and somebody standing in the beautiful arched skylights, and talking. It really was something so special. It became a character in the production. And there's a lot of conversation in that play about what happens in the synagogue at night, and that ghosts come out. It's right in the play, so it felt like a good fit for it. It was very special. We're looking to repeat it, remount it maybe in a year from now.
Wow, I hope it happens. It sounds like something to see. But the Vilna Shul in general is now not in service as a shul, right? It's only a performance space.
Yeah, they do have some services very rarely. For high holidays, I think they have services. But it's not a performance space. It's a cultural center. It's a beautiful cultural center, yeah. They do events. They do all sorts of gatherings. Beautiful place. Beautiful people that work there as well.
Lovely. Last question I have for you. Is there anything you want to share about your production of Shylock that's coming up here in New York?
Yeah, Merchant of Venice. These two productions are with the same cast and a lot of similarities, and I think they're very much in dialogue with each other. I think the relationship to Shylock, the Jew, the moneylender, throughout time from when Shakespeare wrote the play has been changing, and it kind of has been tracking. Shakespeare wrote this play and this character as an evil character. It's very clear. It's a play about good versus evil, where the Jew is evil and ultimately the good wins, and everyone gets married and everyone's happy. But because of his brilliance, Shakespeare gave some incredible monologues to Shylock, which were early perceived as comedic. Hath not a Jew eyes? No, they don't. They should be in a ghetto somewhere. It was comedic when an actor said those lines, and with time, it has bounced back and forth, starting in the 19th century, going to Germany in the 20th century. It has the character of Shylock, kind of the relationship to this character shows us the development of European relationship to Jews and Judaism. Like, it changes with time the relationship to specifically this character that's not a good or a bad character, just a person, but he's categorized as a Jew who is a moneylender, who is a negative character. And this relationship to this character tracks the relationship to Jews in the world, of how this play is produced. A lot of times is very telling of what people think about the world of Jews today.
Meaning the interpretation reflects the person who interprets it. It reflects what they think.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, is there anything else I didn't ask that you want to speak to?
Come see the show. And I really love to. Please come to see the shows and stay. There's a couple of talkbacks that we're trying to schedule with great moderators, and ask your questions. Ask real questions. Say things that have impacted you more or less, and be in conversation with me, with us, with these productions.
Beautiful. I'm going to be linking the information to all of that in the video description. So thank you so much, Igor, and the listeners and the viewers, and bye-bye.